Let me help you transform your deep frying game from level 1 to level 100 overnight. If you are in the mood for some good deep fried food, fish and chips is by far one of the best comfort meals you could go for. I have been a fan of Gordon Ramsay for a long time. And of course, I highly recommend checking out his fish and chip shop if you are ever in Las Vegas. However, you do not need to buy a plane ticket just to experience this delicious meal. You can easily fry up fish and chips in the comfort of your own home and for a fraction of the price. I am going to show you some of the techniques I have seen Gordon Ramsay use, as well as incorporate my own tips and tricks to ensure a foolproof recipe. So without wasting any more time, let's get into how I as a home cook would make fish and chips. My first tip is to start your prep the night before. This is going to make the time spent cooking so much easier for you the next day. It is also going to ensure crispier fries and a tastier tartar sauce. I peel some potatoes over some parchment paper to make cleanup quick and easy. Once those are skinned, I set them in a bowl of cold water to keep them from browning while I prepare for the next step. I like to cut my fries using this inexpensive crinkle cutter. But you can use a regular knife, of course. Also, it has occurred to me that not many cooks talk about the right way to cut a potato, which is the safe way. So let's talk about it. When dicing or slicing a potato, always start with it laying on its widest side. Make your first slice. Then, flip your potato on that flat side you just created. This will prevent your potato from rolling around while you are slicing it. While this happens to be a skill I am still developing, I am in fact trying to keep my cuts as even as possible. It is very important to keep these even. Put your fries in a cold bowl of water to wash off any excess starch. For best results and extra crispy fries, put that bowl in a refrigerator overnight. The next step in my night before prep is making the tartar sauce. This tartar sauce recipe may seem excessive and over the top compared to an easy mayo and relish recipe, but I promise this sauce is so good that it is worth the extra steps. First, I love making my own mayonnaise. This takes about 60 seconds and it is way better and arguably healthier than anything from the store. I have 1 raw egg, 1 small clove of garlic, and 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I recommend avoiding extra virgin olive oil only because it can turn bitter when you blend it. I am using avocado oil. I also add some salt, pepper, and a splash of pickle juice. This next step is important. Always give your blender a couple of pulses to start the emulsion process. When you see some white blobs start to form around the blades, then you are safe to hold down the blender and incorporate the rest of the oil. Once incorporated, set that to the side and let's dice some dill pickles. Throw those pickles into a mixing bowl and let's rehydrate some dried tarragon in white vinegar on medium heat. I am going to reduce this vinegar until it is just about all the way evaporated. But don't go too far. You still want your tarragon leaves to be nice and wet, so don't walk away from your pan during this step. Once my tarragon looks something like this, I scrape that into the mixing bowl followed by capers, mayonnaise, and I like to sneak in a little MSG with some anchovy paste. Stir that together, taste for salt and pepper, and now you have just made one of the most amazing tartar sauces. For best results, cover that sauce and let it rest overnight. Now it is the next day, and I am ready to start frying. In a bowl, I mix flour, baking soda, and salt. Whisk that together and set that bowl in the freezer. A good tip for fish batter is to make sure the batter stays as cold as possible. Freezing this bowl will help keep ingredients cooler as I add more things to it. Now onto my fish fillets. Here I have some thawed frozen cod in every shape and size. While I would have loved it if my fillets were the same shape and size, I still managed to come up with a game plan. After cutting my fillets as evenly as I could, I ended up with this. My strategy was to group like cuts in the same frying batch, that way they would cook for the same amount of time. The best cuts were the longer ones that were about 1.5 inches thick. If you have long, even fillets, I recommend cutting them all to that size. My biggest safety tip for deep frying anything is to make sure anything you drop into that hot oil is bone dry. I pat off all excess moisture from my fillets and sprinkle them with a good amount of salt. Next, I roll them in some cornstarch, set them on a cooling rack, and store them in the refrigerator to keep cool while I prepare my frying oil. I am using a wok, which is an idea I got from the iconic chef Kenji Lopez Alt. He has plenty of great videos that go into why frying in a wok is safer, but of course you can just use any deep heavy bottom pot you have available. I am adding canola oil until my wok is about half full. For safety, you never want to fill your pot more than 3/4 of the way full of oil. Turn your heat to medium-high, and I highly recommend using some kind of deep frying thermometer or a candy thermometer to monitor your temperatures. While my oil is heating, I begin to prep my crinkle-cut fries. I am going to go in with some paper towels and thoroughly pat dry the French fries, taking care to even dab between the grooves. For the fluffiest and crispiest fries, I always recommend the double fry method. When my oil reaches about 275 degrees, I carefully drop my fries in. As another safety tip, I divide my fries into batches, and I recommend always having a spider close by at all times. Your fries will release a lot of bubbles at first. If your bubbles start to get too close to the top of your pot, do not be afraid to pull those fries out and make the batch smaller. You definitely do not want to let those bubbles spill over, as this will start a grease fire. This first frying process is known as the blanching process. We are not looking for any color, just starting the cooking process. Let those blanch for about 5 minutes, then pull them to drain on some paper towels or a cooling rack. Now, I need to give these fries some time to cool back down to room temperature. So while these are cooling, I am going to start prepping the beer batter for the fish. To my ice-cold bowl, I am going to mix in some very cold beer. I actually had this beer sitting in the freezer for about 20 minutes, just for good measure. Add your beer little by little until you reach about a pancake batter consistency. For me, this took about 3/4 of the bottle, and the rest was for me to sip on. Once you have a consistency like this, throw that bowl back into the refrigerator. Going back to my French fries, which should be about room temperature, I raise my frying oil back up to medium-high, and this time I want my temperature to reach 350 degrees Fahrenheit. When my oil is hot and ready, I gently drop in my first batch. This time I am looking for a beautiful golden brown color as well as crispiness, which took about 6 to 8 minutes. Once your fries are golden and crispy, set those to drain one last time. While your fries are piping hot, this is the best time to hit them with some salt, as the salt tends to stick to them better when they are hot. Now comes the final step. I bring my oil to about 375 degrees, and once that is hot, I get my batter and fillets ready. Keeping like sizes in the same batch, I dunk the first batch all at once in the batter, pull each fillet out, shake off any excess, and slowly lay those in the frying oil. Be sure to lay them slow and away from you. Keep your fillets spaced and use a spider to keep them from sticking together. After about 3 to 4 minutes, you should have these gorgeous crispy fillets. Set those onto some paper towels, quickly blot them dry, and they are ready to serve. And there you have it, one of my favorite fried food combos on this planet. While this recipe does require quite a bit of prep work, it really does end with a spectacular result. Anyways, I hope that you give this recipe a try. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment what you would like to see from me in my next recipe video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.